pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Well, do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
We do not.
Right.
Maps, and more maps.
All right. Well, moving on to school business 5.1. We have public hearing.
What time is it supposed to start? Oh.
Whoops.
Well, why don't we adjust the agenda and we'll start with Marcy Becerra Day.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, Marcy Becerra Day. So, as you know, there is going to be a celebration of Marcy Becerra, the school, on Saturday. And at the request of the staff and students there, they wanted to see if we could pass a resolution calling Saturday officially in the district Marcy Becerra Day. Mm-hmm. So we wrote this resolution, and I'll read it aloud, and hopefully you'll be in favor of it, and hopefully you'll be there on Saturday for the unveiling of the mural and celebrating the school. They're going to have some native dancers as well as some food, so it should be a good time at noon. Whereas the Healdsburg Unified School District recognizes those who have worked to make lasting and meaningful contributions to the lives and well-being of our students, and that Marcy Louise Galeto Becerra truly embodied that legacy in her lifelong commitment to equity in her community. And whereas Marcy Becerra worked tirelessly to ensure students had access to Indigenous education and Indigenous ways of living, working to embody community culture and make it accessible to the youth of Sonoma County. And whereas, as part of her lasting impact, Marcy Becerra continues to foster curiosity and alternative ways of learning and understanding the world in the Healdsburg Unified School District students. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Healdsburg Unified School District Board of Trustees hereby recognize and wish to honor the contribution of Marcelina Louise Becerra to quality education in the state of California and in the Healdsburg schools, and proclaims March 29th, 2025 as Marcy Becerra Day.
Thank you.
I move that we designate the Saturday as Marcy Becerra Day.
And I will second.
So it is a resolution. We need a roll call vote.
President Lopez Jimenez.
Aye.
Vice President Potmasil. Trustee McAllister.
Aye.
Trustee Velasquez.
Aye.
Trustee Del Rey.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're still early.
The celebration on Saturday is at noon, correct?
It is at noon, yeah. And hopefully the weather cooperates.
Yeah.
They got a taco truck or something coming, and like I said, some dance performances, and should be a good time.
Do you know how long it's going to be going on for?
I don't know. I think like ceremony will probably be short, and there'll be some performances, and so if you came for an hour or something, I think that's sufficient.
We just can't get there until probably 1:15 or at the earliest.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't know if I was
swing by and see if it's still happening.
See some of it.
Hard for me to know, but yeah.
It's really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Where exactly?
Marcy Becerra is housed, so there's, when you come in on the Monte Vista side by the pool, you have the auto shop, and then the next row of buildings is where Marcy Becerra is housed. So we have our video production class, Marcy Becerra classroom, Marcy Becerra classroom, art. Actually, ceramics is in between the two Marcy classrooms.
Okay.
And then culinary is the next building over. So it's in that little plaza right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know where it is.
Yeah, the mural will be there. Yeah. The mural's right on the side towards the end of that second row of buildings.
Mike and I went during the youth perspective, just as youth truth perspective, just take a peek. And Yuli was there, and it looked so beautiful, and it was still not finished. So I can't wait to see what's it look like when it's all done.
So cool.
And Uli's done a great job.
He did.
Yeah.
And his friends too.
It's on my calendar. I might be at a soccer game.
You know what? I'm going to make a public comment.
Just kidding.
Yeah, I'll stand up there.
Can you fill out a card too? 510.
Just normally I would just email you this, but since we're all together and I can do it here. We found out it seems to be third-hand information at this point, but there may have been an individual in a car committing lewd acts on Wednesday after school at the corner of Fitch and Powell. So Yeah, we have notified the police. They're going to increase patrols and be more vigilant. It's a white sedan, specifically with a male. We're investigating more to try to get more information, and we are sending it out an alert this evening to all parents so they know to be on the lookout and just be vigilant. So just want to make sure you're aware of that. It's like I said, it's kind of third-hand information at this point through the telephone, kind of game. But we're taking it seriously. We're not just brushing it aside. I was out there at the corner at dismissal today to make sure nothing was going on.
Did you say a white sedan or a white van?
A white sedan.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. No van. Yeah. And I think it's going out at 6:00 today. Yeah. And it is college acceptance season, so we're hearing lots from our students about college acceptances on a whole nother note. Yeah, so 5 kids got into UCLA. My niece today found out like an hour ago she got into Cornell. So
cool.
Super exciting
Congrats.
for food science. Yeah, it's really cool. So some really great acceptances happening across the board. So Julian, I saw him driving by. Actually, we fist bumped through the window when I was getting out of my car. He got into Berkeley and UCLA. So
cool.
Yeah. So good stuff. He's not here. I don't know. Not typically. We let him know. Yeah. 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 We might not have sent him an individual message. Yeah. Yeah, he is. He was clearly on his way somewhere, though. Yeah. And typically, I don't know if he does a spring sport, but he's done fall and winter sports. So, so he's probably headed to swim practice. Yeah. Yeah. He was invested in the conversation.
Yeah.
Good word. Yeah. I'm trying to think if I've had any other public comments.
Stalin.
I just spent 2 hours writing an update, so I don't want to talk about any of that.
Can I make a quick board comment?
You can.
Board report?
Just that the world famous Greyhound Band is playing at the Giants game on April 9th.
Oh.
And the tickets are $20 each.
What day
It's
is that?
super fun. It's a Wednesday, I believe. It's a Wednesday, and I think it's a 1:30 game. So daytime.
And this
Spend the night.
is considered board business? Just kidding.
It is.
Well, it's only board business because it's our school band.
No, I know. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I have a lot of meetings
Yeah. Oh,
scheduled
yes.
already.
It could
I
be
could-
considered board business.
Yeah, you-
Certainly.
I could
Yes.
leave work early.
Correct.
Yes.
I won't.
Definitely board business.
Watching this. Yeah, I know. Okay, well, we still have 2 minutes before we have to start this map. No.
I don't think there
I
is
don't
one
know
that
it.
I know of. No, really? I feel like that's true. Maybe when Natalie first started. I don't know.
We should ask.
Yeah.
That's a board inquiry right there. What is our fight song? I totally still know my high school song, which I sang it recently, and it's completely nonsensical. Like,
Most of them are.
it doesn't
Yeah.
really. Cardinal and gold to guide us through.
Do you know the Santa Rosa fight chant? Something like LOL, LOA, Baladinga Doombe, Mosa, 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 all the way, all the way, all the way. Yeah, it's total nonsense. Yeah.
Oh, ours wasn't that nonsense.
Yeah, ours is like not even words. Yeah.
The words just don't really mean anything.
Yeah. You call me old?
Do we have one? Does Healdsburg have one?
I don't know.
I got the first 4 words.
Yeah.
All right, well, still have a couple of
It's okay.
time. But this is our
They should be jumping
last,
on.
right?
You can.
Last.
Why don't you
public
open our public hearing and make the announcement, and then we can go to the presentation. Yeah.
hearing?
Yeah.
I know.
Go for
Thank
it.
you. Okay. We will now convene to a public hearing to receive public testimony concerning proposed trustee voting area plans associated with the district's transition to a by-trustee area election system. Under California Election Code Section 110, the board must hold at least 2 public hearings prior to holding a public hearing to adopt the final trustee voting area plan. And that is today, right now. Yes, 5:10 p.m.
Okay, now we're due for our demographer presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And if we have questions, this is a good time to ask them.
Well, good evening. My name is Dr. Justin Levitt with National Demographics. It's a pleasure to be back here tonight.
Hello.
I know that our attorneys seem to have dropped off. Maybe he'll be right back here. I know we're going to tag team the presentation together.
Yes, I'm here. I was having some audio issues.
Okay. I just introduced myself, so if you want to go ahead and get started.
All right, definitely. So my name's Brandon Lalonde. I'm an attorney with Fagan, Friedman, and Fullfrost. For those of you who were here for the last public hearing, you saw me here. And today we're going to be doing the third and final map-related public hearing before the final map adoption, which happens later this evening. All right. Let's move to the next slide. What is the CVRA? So taking a look at the law itself, what is the California Voting Rights Act? This is a law that's been in place for over 2 decades at this point, and it prohibits the use of an at-large election system when essentially that system impairs the ability of a protected class to influence the outcome of an election. That's a really low standard through the court cases. We found that it's really easy for prospective plaintiffs to make such a showing under something called racially polarized voting. So if we can go to the next slide. That brings us to what is a by trustee area election system. This is the only safe harbor from one of these potential CVRA claims. And a by trustee area election system is where the school district is divided into distinct trustee areas, and a governing board member is elected from each one of those areas. And they're only elected by registered voters in that particular trustee area. So what we're doing here today and what we've been talking about for the past several months at this point is what makes sense in terms of the potential maps that are now being drawn. We're looking for feedback from the public about what they like about certain maps, what they don't like about certain maps, and now we're at the end of that process. So if we go to the next slide. It's important to keep in mind that with a total population of over 16,000, each trustee area will be approximately 3,200 people. The law has provided that there is a maximum of 10% variance allowable between the largest trustee area and the smallest. So in this case, that would be about 320 people. And it's also important to remember that census blocks vary significantly in size, shape, and population totals. So when we get those weird shapes on the map, it's not for lack of trying to keep them regular. It's just that the census blocks are shaped a certain way, and we're not allowed to split those census blocks. Going to the next page, I'll hand it over to Justin for just a moment to talk about the district's demographics.
Sure. Just looking at our overall population as part of our analysis, we looked at our Federal Voting Rights Act requirements. Looking here at total population, about 62% of the population counted as part of the 2020 census was non-Hispanic white. About a third of the population, Hispanic or Latino. And the balance is made up of other groups, 4% Asian, 2% Native American, 1% Black. However, these may look very different from your school demographics. Often we do see big differences between our population and school counts. And if we look at our next slide, we also see differences compared to our citizen voting age population count. Citizen voting age population is the population over the age of 18 with U.S. citizenship. This is what the courts often recall the eligible voter count, and is used as part of our Voting Rights Act analysis. Remember that our total population was 62% non-Hispanic white. Our citizen voting age population is 78% non-Hispanic white. So we do see quite a substantial gap there. And conversely, we see that gap in the Latino community as well. Only 17% of our citizens of voting age are Latino. In addition to these numbers, we also look at a number of other demographic factors as part of the process of identifying neighborhoods and communities of interest. It's no substitute for your local knowledge of your communities, but it certainly can help us understand differences that go beyond just race or ethnicity that affect different parts of our community. If we go to the next slide, we show you a map of where we see the Latino population.
Excuse me, I just want to confirm that the total population does not include people with weekend homes here. Is that correct?
So that's a very interesting question. Now, the census technically counts everybody who is present on April 1st of 2020. That's the official census date. And we know that in 2020 in particular, they did a much better job than in previous years of not counting people who were at vacation homes, second homes, and so forth. In fact, what we saw nationwide was that the population in these kind of areas like Newport Beach and around Disneyland and other vacation destinations fell substantially across the board compared to their 2010 population numbers. So I think the unique circumstances of the pandemic actually give us a really good insight to what the permanent resident population is, because this census happened right during the first few weeks of the pandemic.
And we'll see how that changes in 2030.
Yes.
So the theory is that it was before everyone during the pandemic went to vacation homes because it was early and everybody was really fearful at that point still.
Right. So they mailed out the initial forms on March 1st, and they said please return the form by April 1st. And so right during that window is right when the pandemic started shutting everything down. But from what we've seen nationwide, a lot of areas where there are a lot of vacation rentals and second homes, neighborhoods from Newport Beach to Palm Springs, lost population compared to 2010. And so we think that at least as of the time the census itself would have been taken right at the very beginning of the pandemic, was probably more accurate than that we normally would get in these vacation destinations.
Thank you.
Yeah. But it's certainly something we're looking at, especially as we look toward the 2030 census, as Brandon mentioned. And so I want to just, if we go to the slide, back to the slides, just point out where we do see that Latino population tends to be concentrated along the freeway and the train tracks in central Healdsburg. And so, that's going to be the neighborhood that we really focus on in terms of our higher than average Latino population. And we would see that in both the total population and the citizens of voting age. And now I'll hand it back to Brandon to talk a little bit about the process.
All right, we talked a little bit about this earlier in the presentation, but the current step that we're in is called the drafting of the map stays. So that's where the demographer, which is Justin and his team, used the 2020 census data and additionally permitted updated data like the CVAP that we've just been talking about to create the draft map scenarios that we'll be talking about later in the presentation. One of the key rules that we need to keep in mind is that the population must be as equal as possible, and we're looking at people, not necessarily citizens. The Education Code also reinforces this idea by saying the trustee areas shall be nearly as equal in population. And again, there is a special carve-out that allows up to 10% variation between the largest and smallest trustee areas. Some criteria to consider, of course, the maps have to comply with the U.S. Constitution, comply with the California Constitution, achieve population balance like we've been talking about, and comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act. Along with that, a new addition to this process is determining whether or not it is possible to create an election district that has a majority out of a protected minority group. For example, in this district, whether or not it was possible to have a majority Latino district. That takes us to the next slide. Also, what's changed recently is the order of priority for the criteria for the demographers to consider. The most important thing, other than what we've talked about, is that the trustee areas must be contiguous. That means they need to actually be a shape, even if they are a weird shape, like we've seen in some districts. Also looking at local neighborhoods, communities of interest. city and census designated places, natural artificial boundaries, geographical compactness, and other local considerations. And importantly, it's now not permissible to favor or discriminate against incumbent political candidate or political party. So essentially, we shouldn't be paying attention to where any of the trustees currently live throughout this process.
And just to note, all the maps were drawn blind to where incumbents were located.
All right, that takes us to the map options. Each map was randomly assigned a color. The color of the map has nothing to do with the colors of each trustee area, and each map option has 5 balanced trustee areas. On each map, the trustee area 1 is going to be pink, trustee area 2 is going to be blue, trustee area 3 is going to be green, and trustee area 4 is going to be purple, and trustee area 5 is going to be orange. That's not to be confused with the map scenarios that have a different color scheme.
So moving into the maps themselves, we have, as we've seen for the past 2 hearings, a full map of the entire district as well as a zoomed in map on the city of Healdsburg that lets us look at more detail. We also have a 3rd slide that shows some of the demographics for each of these maps. In addition to our presentation tonight, I do want to highlight that we do have an interactive web viewer online that allows for more detail, allow you to compare maps, zoom in and out. We also have PDFs of each of these maps available on the website, and a spreadsheet is attached to each of those PDFs with the full demographic profile of all the information we have. One of the new things I want to highlight tonight is that in our demographics, we do have the request that one of the board members made the last meeting to include the under 18 population on the maps.
It's in the census or the
It's in the
demographic data.
I was looking for it in here and I wasn't, where is it? Oh, age, thank you.
So if we look at each of the maps in turn, I want to start with the green map. So that was kind of an overview of some of the things I want to talk about with the maps. But I'll start with the green map in particular. The green map has one area that includes all the areas outside of the city of Healdsburg proper, including all of the city islands, all of the portions of the city that are not connected directly to the city are in the 4 trustee areas that are more central in this map. We felt like we wanted to show you one of these options because under the new Fair Maps Act, we are asked to at least consider a map that minimizes divisions of cities. Healdsburg has to be divided into a minimum of 4 districts, and in most of these maps, you'll see it's divided into all 5. But this gives you an option that really shows you one of the only ways to minimize that division of Healdsburg. And what this also allows us to do is to create an area 2, so the blue area on the map, that essentially is west of the train tracks. So it includes the areas between the freeway and the train tracks in area 2, along with the western side of Healdsburg, a couple of small islands and neighborhoods on the far side of the freeway. In addition, on this map, area 4 is kind of our central Healdsburg district. It keeps the March Avenue area together between Healdsburg Avenue and University. It also basically divides the rest of the city into a north area 3 and a south area 5. This map, if we go to the next slide, does not have a majority Latino district. And I'll point out that by citizen voting age or eligible voter population, none of the maps have an area that is majority Latino. All of them are around 25 to 30%, give or take, in terms of the highest Latino citizens of voting age. We do see 2 areas that have a higher total population. In this case, we have a 46% and a 41% Latino district by that total population count. In addition, at the bottom of the slide, we do have our under 18 population counts. We see that there is some variation from area to area. The total numbers are quite small, but the lowest is 411 residents under 18, 13% of the total population in trustee area 5. and the greatest being 669 residents in Area 4, 21% of that district's total population. Overall, the spreadsheet also gives us a deviation, total deviation. Remember that percentage we want to keep under 10%. In this map, it's a 2.2%.
I'm confused. The school age children number, is it different? Am I misreading this? Is it different than the age 0 to 19 percentages here by 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? So on my paperwork that's with the map, it shows area 1, age 0 to 19 is 13%, and the next one is 20, and that's 19, and then 24.
Where are you looking?
On this.
On the larger paper. Yeah.
So, oh.
Vote, no, this is under 18. I mean, this is, I guess the table is 0 to 19, so is that one more year, a slightly different
Yeah,
percent?
that would add a year.
Oh.
So.
The other difference is that
yeah.
for the 0 to 19 on the table, that's using our American Community Survey data. That's
So it's two different sources.
It's more of our estimates. For our 0 to 18, we've used the total population numbers from the 2020 census to give you the most accurate count there.
So that was under 18 as of 2020?
Yeah, but
As of 2020.
Gotcha. Okay.
Anyway.
And the reason is because the census gives us a far more accurate count than the American Community Survey does, particularly in a small jurisdiction like your school district. And so to give you the most accurate numbers, we use that total census count. The American Community Survey does provide good estimates, but they are a little bit more of an estimate. They basically send the American Community Survey out to about 1 million households a year. So it's a sample of the whole US population. While the census is that 100% everybody's counted number.
So we should operate with the census data as presumed to be more accurate.
The census data should be more accurate as of that, particularly April 1st, 2020.
Yeah.
Donna, do you have a concern about like the application of this data?
No, I just really would like it all in my printout so that I can see things side by side. It's very hard to absorb this, just one slide at a time. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. Census data is the data to be looking at. It's just a little hard to structure, difficult to absorb. That's all.
And I apologize if I'm going too fast. Just let me know to slow down.
No, I don't think. I think it's
you're
just
not-
a lot
that's
of
not-
data. So,
Sorry,
yeah.
Justin, that was a note from the interpreter. That was why that was in the chat.
Okay.
Okay. Please continue.
No, I understand that. I'm just,
They're within 1% except for.
Oh, this is just green. We haven't even looked at the other ones. So who knows?
No, I'm just relating this to this, and
Okay.
they're close, but that section.
You can keep going, Justin. Thank you.
Sure. So in the green map, we tried to minimize the number of districts or trustee areas that are, that are inside, that contain Healdsburg. In the orange map, we try to minimize the number of areas that are entirely in the city of Healdsburg. So in the orange map, 3, 4, and 5 are entirely or almost entirely in the city of Healdsburg itself. This allows us to do a simple east-west split of the rural trustee areas 1 and 2 that not only contain kind of the 2 smaller school districts, but they're also kind of the rural areas or the areas more outside of the city are located in areas 1 and 2 in this map. If we zoom in a little bit to the city on our next slide, you'll see that areas 3 and 5 kind of divide the north and south portions of that central Healdsburg area. And area 4 is the area that makes up the eastern part of the city. In this map, we really follow the city limits, using those city boundaries as our dividing lines. If we go to the next slide, this map has a higher deviation, 9.18%, still under that 10% presumptively constitutional limit. And again, 3 and 5 are two higher Latino percentages in terms of our trustee areas. You'll see that we have some differences below that in terms of where we see our under 18 population. Area 1 actually has fewer residents, in this case 405 residents under 18, which is lower than our total for any of the areas in the green map. On the other hand, Area 3 with 739 residents under 18 is higher than any area on the green map. So just going to show you that even minor differences in the boundaries can mean real changes in where we see that population. So going to the next slide, our purple map was another way to look at sort of more of a north and south split of the rural areas, with Area 2 taking the northern tier of the district and Area 1 following the southern tier. We do follow the smaller school district boundary a little bit here between Areas 1 and 2 on the west end of the district. That's because there aren't a lot of great census block boundaries in that area that we can use as an alternative. This also, if we zoom in a little bit to the city of Healdsburg, we have 3 areas that are predominantly within the city. Area 3 connects 2 neighborhoods that are both within the city along a road that really links those 2 neighborhoods together. And you'll see there's even a little pocket of incorporated city in between them. And so we felt this was kind of an interesting option that shows you kind of north of the hill and south of the hill for the city, for this part of the city. Area 4 is our more central Healdsburg area. And Area 1 links that southern tier in the southwest of the district to the southern portion of the city of Healdsburg proper. Looking at the population, this one is our first map that actually has a majority Latino district by total population in Area 4. It's not required to draw a majority district by total population. It's that citizen voting age population we're concerned about for Federal Voting Rights Act. But you see that it does mean it's a little bit higher in that one area, Area 4 here, in terms of our Latino citizens of voting age population. In addition, you can see here we have our numbers for each of the trustee areas for under 18 at the bottom as well. This map overall also comes in under 10%, about a 6.4% deviation. And then if we go to the next slide, we created 2 maps, the teal and the yellow maps, that looked at kind of trying to get those at least 2 trustee areas into each of the small school districts. That was kind of our goal. Teal adopts a quadrant approach, where we kind of have a northwest, northeast, southwest, and southeast area. And then Area 3 becomes kind of our central Healdsburg district or trustee area. If we can see what this means for the rural areas. Again, we're working with the census blocks we have, so it's not the prettiest map, but it does follow the necessary necessary lines to keep all of those census blocks whole. Within Healdsburg itself, we really tried to pay attention to the central part of the city, and then how could we create areas that seem to be contiguous or flow naturally into the areas surrounding them. So in this map, we have several areas that cross the freeway, linking those areas, say, between the freeway and the train, to the areas to the north, south, east, and west. If we look at the demographics of this map does have one particularly higher area of Latino population in Area 3, and then a slightly higher than average area in Area 1. And then, of course, we have our population. Our numbers on this map for the under 18 population are probably more balanced than we've seen in other the maps we've seen so far. We have about a 5% deviation overall with this approach. And then if we go to the yellow map, our last map, again, we wanted to create a map that divided each of the 2 areas. But this map sort of reflects a a different approach that keeps that northern tier of the district between Alexander Valley and Westside Elementary all in one area all together, and then essentially creates a southern district, Area 5, and then wraps kind of those two wrap around to some degree the two more central urban areas 3 and 4, which include most of the city itself. If we zoom into the city, we see the north and south portions, especially in this map. Area 4 takes in almost all of that freeway corridor, to the extent we could get it all into Area 4. Area 3 is north of that, including the March Avenue corridor between Healdsburg and University, as well as the neighborhoods directly north of it. Looking at this map, it also creates the demographics of this map. If we go to the next slide, the highest Latino citizen voting age population area at 31%. It also creates another majority Latino area at Area 3. On the other hand, it does also, have some more extreme differences in its under 18 population between the different trustee areas. And so with that, here I'm going to turn it back over to Brandon to close us out, but I'm happy to address any of your questions once he's done about any of the maps.
Thanks, Justin. I appreciate it. So the next two slides are just going to be sort of our overall differences between the maps. If we can just go back one more. This shows the differences. No, back one more if we can. I think we're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, the computer's glitching.
It's not letting me. Hold on.
No worries. Right there. All right. So this slide just shows the differences between all of the maps together on one slide. If anyone wanted to take a look at that, shows kind of the differences with the green map, essentially having the exterior of the district, the orange map having a east and west. Similar idea with the purple map, the teal map having more of a quadrant approach, and the yellow map being a variation of that. We can go to the next slide. This is another slide that shows the overall differences in the population under 18, and this just shows all of the different scenarios and their different areas. So all of the information on one slide.
Thank you. I think that was for me.
All right. Next slide. Final thoughts, something that we've touched on in each one of these presentations is that this process does not change the overall district boundaries, and it doesn't change the school attendance boundaries. It doesn't change how the district is governed. This is still, each board member has a fiduciary duty to represent the entire district, regardless of which trustee area they live in. It's still one district with common goals and challenges. And going to the next slide, this shows our schedule. We had our first two pre-map public hearings. It feels like so long ago at this point. We had our first map-related public hearing back in February, our second just a couple weeks ago, and then the final map-related public hearing tonight, along with the map adoption that will happen later this evening. And as Justin was referencing at the beginning of the presentation, all of this information is available on the district's website. This is a screenshot of what the website looks like, and all the information that is available there. And the next slide shows the interactive map tool that Justin and his team provided for the members of the community to take a look at this in real time and be able to see what the maps look like, zoom in to particular streets. That was just another option that we had available here. And that's just a different look at the different areas, different colors. All right, and that takes us to the end of the presentation. We're happy to answer any questions that are presented, but we'll turn it back over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So, as part of this public hearing, members of the public may submit comments on the establishment of voting area boundaries for the new trustee voting areas that will be established as part of the district's transition from an at-large election system to a by-trustee area election system.
I do not think we have any public comments.
Nope, we do not have any public
So we
comments.
can close the public hearing.
All right. Well, thank you all for your comments. This public hearing to receive public testimony concerning proposed trustee voting area plan is now closed.
All right.
All right.
Do we just have a conversation now?
Yeah, I would assume. Yeah.
Okay,
Oh.
so now
sorry.
we're going to item B, which is our discussion regarding map adoption.
Okay.
You can,
As you know, the district previously initiated a transition from an at-large election system to a by-trustee area election system. Part of the process to complete this transition includes the selection and adoption of a final trustee area plan. In advance of adopting a final plan, the district was required to and did seek public input on the proposed trustee area plans. In addition to tonight's public hearing, prior to the release of the draft map options, the district held public hearings on January 15th, 2025, January 23rd, 2025, to solicit feedback in advance of the map preparations. Following the creation of the draft maps, options, which were available and advertised on the district's website, the district concluded public hearings at board meetings on February 19, 2025, March 12, and as of today, March 27, 2025. At today's meeting, the governing board will consider and vote to adopt a resolution and select a final trustee area plan. The matter will now be put before the governing board to adopt the proposed resolution and to select a final trustee area plan. Members of the board, we will now open the matter up for initial discussion and comments regarding the proposed trustee scenarios. The board will need to vote on adoption of the resolution and selection of one of the trustee area plan scenarios. The board will also need to identify which trustee area or seats from the adopted trustee plan scenario should come up in the upcoming elections.
so on your table, you will see there's a list, which she was just referencing. So depending on which plan we choose to adopt, some of them have two options. That's because we have 3 trustees that are on 4 years left on their term, and then 2 trustees who have 2 years left on their term, essentially, ballpark. So we just have to choose which areas. I don't think it matters. We'll just choose one when we land on the map that we're choosing. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right.
It doesn't matter. How doesn't it matter? Like, because the two people who are, let's just look at 2026, the soonest election.
You're right. On what map we choose, we should look to see, I guess, we can't have a conflict with where somebody lives and open that area, right? Is that right? Zoomers?
Are they still?
Okay, so once you select the map, then we take a look at the 2026 and 2028 data. We're not, again, supposed to look at where or how that impacts each trustee. We do look at the maps in terms of the higher percentage of Latino populations. That's one of the guiding factors that we look into. Do we want to go 2026, 2028? So
try to get the Latino votes, the Latino heavy areas voting first, essentially, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So it does matter.
Right.
I stand corrected. So anyway, we need to discuss. So keeping in mind criteria, like I want to dilute a little bit of the criteria, but just say the options here are like the whole reason of doing this for us in this community is to maximize Latino votes as much as possible, right? To give them better representation. I think we also there were criteria that were constitutionally supposed to follow around not, in my words, diluting communities of interest or specific viewpoints. So we want to look at how areas are divided. Obviously, there's only so many choices with the census blocks, but I thought Julian had an interesting point about Parkland Farms last time, because that to me is a clear neighborhood area of interest. And I think we're all committed to, the values of democracy and making sure there's multiple points of view represented. So keeping those in mind, I was thinking just process-wise, perhaps we could first start with, are there any maps we just want to take off the table right away? And then we can talk about what's left and go through the pluses and minuses, pros and cons.
Can I just throw out there that I initially had narrowed it down to the orange and yellow maps as maps that I liked, and I like the orange map the best. So if I don't know where everyone else is with it, I'm certainly open to a discussion. But I was taking into consideration many of the things that we've talked about in prior meetings and just trying to look for a way to represent everyone the best, and also keeping in mind that I think each of us feels that we're here to represent the students, and not all of those students have parents that vote, and obviously those students themselves don't vote. So I think we can I tried to take a really common sense approach to just looking at dividing up the map into places where there would be opportunities for the communities in those zones to be representative voices.
Yeah, I echo that, and I narrowed it down to 3, which were the yellow, green, and orange map. I want to say that the teal map did not really appeal to me, so if that's one of the maps that we want to take out, I am more than happy to do that. The teal map.
And why is that?
Well, just the way it's, aesthetically, no, kidding. No, just the way it's split up. I feel like when you were talking about the voter turnout, I don't think that is the best map for what we wanted to do. I think it incorporates the fact that it splits up. I personally feel, maybe because I have a strong connection there, but because I feel that Sunnyvale Road and Twin Peaks Oak, just that neighborhood within itself is I consider it one community.
I didn't understand.
Sunnyvale, Twin Oaks.
Sunnyvale and Twin Oaks,
It's at the top of the
area,
green.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've always considered it one neighborhood, so I just seeing it split up is no for me. So, but also when it comes to, can we go back? We can't go back to the presentation. When you were doing
We can look at the slides,
oh,
certainly.
the aid,
What do you want, the demographics?
no. The last one we saw. The comparison. Yes. Thank you.
There. Population under 18.
Next one.
Next. Yeah, that one. I don't know. Just looking at that, it just made more sense to take off the teal map. And adding on to what Chris was saying when we talked about Parkland Farms, just the fact that Parkland Farms is also another community that we thinking about, but that it's also sucked into all of Valley Central Valley.
Yeah.
Just I don't know, that.
I think
It's never going to stand alone.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Right. So I would just like to say that at this point, I'm agreeable to take the teal map off if that's what the majority of people want. But I'd like to talk about all of the maps, because as he was going through them tonight, I had a different take on
Well, there's
what I was seeing.
Let me.
And having the population. Wait a minute.
No, I am. I stopped.
Thank you. Having the population under 18 up there made me look at some things differently. When I was thinking about this, I favored the yellow map, because when I look at Parkland Farms, when Julian first mentioned that, I balked immediately at that. And then my husband reminded me that there is a small area of low-cost housing in there. But I'm interested in those Latino blocks being as contiguous as I can get them.
Mm-hmm.
And separating out Parkland Farms with that little slice doesn't work for me. So which is why I ended up going for the yellow map. But as I was looking at the green map, where they took out all of the country voters, and see, I have a thing about Healdsburg's pretty rural itself. It's not so.
There's no urban.
So when you talk about rural voters versus voters who live in town, I think you're still talking about kind of rural people. But when I looked at the green map this time, there are parts of it that kind of made sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to talk about them and not just go
I'd like to talk about the pros and cons.
That's what I was
Of
thinking.
each one of them, and not just throw out, let's get rid of one of them.
Well,
yet.
I agree with you partially and want to
This is
suggest
typical.
the
This is
potential
typical.
of throwing out purple, because purple has one heavy Latino area that's over 25%.
Yeah.
Every other map has two.
Yes.
And so for me, if we're here to maximize Latino votes, I thought purple didn't even qualify.
Didn't do it.
I don't get to vote though, so yeah.
The logic being not better to have one overwhelmingly Latino.
But it's not more overwhelmingly Latino
it's
than
not,
the others.
but it's the-
if it was like 35, 40%, then
Gotcha.
I could be convinced maybe. But because it is the same as the others with two in the same percentage area, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Gotcha.
So that was the one I was going to suggest we take off the table. But if you want to talk, I mean, whatever pleases the
But
board.
that's the one that had 50%, right? Is it the purple map?
No one has 50%.
One of them had 50%.
I'm looking at voting
I'm
population.
not talking about voting. I'm talking about the people.
Yes, it has 50% population, but it still is only 28% voting age or registered voters.
You-
I'm looking strictly at voting because,
So I'm still.
yeah, that's fine.
I'm still talking.
We can
about-
disagree. Yeah.
No, but I'm talking about where the kids are too.
No, I understand.
Because if you look at our student population, it is mostly Latino. And I want those families to be represented as heavily as we can make them, even if they're not the voting. I know.
I guess I would ask how they get represented if they're not vote. I mean, that's the question, right? How that impacts the area, but that's a whole different discussion. So let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Don't, because I couldn't make sense of what I was thinking anyway.
So maybe we go through one by one, pros and cons and where people are with them. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So we'll start with green.
So
What do you see as
talking
pros?
about, I think I can talk about green and teal at the same time. Look at that. I've actually been talking to some folks that live out in the valleys that aren't in the city limits, and like I was for 20 years, about their thoughts on this. And like, do they have, I mean, and most people are just sort of kind of whatever, right? Because you don't really know what impact it's going to have till you're looking at the 2026 thing and thinking, what is happening? Why am I only voting for one spot? But a lot of people who live outside the city limits do feel a little disenfranchised. They don't get to vote on things related to the city, even though it impacts them as people who live out in the outer areas. And I really don't like the separating of the outside of the Healdsburg city limits to, roughly into its own voting block. I think, and this is why I actually lean toward the teal map still, to connect and unify our non-city limit people with people who are in the city limits. And I actually think it's actually really logical to explain to people when they're like, why am I in this area? It's like, well, we created quadrants, and it kind of is a logical thing to explain. And I think some of the other ones are a little less logical to explain. I also, I'm kind of going back to the teal map, keeps Parkland Farms together. I agree. It also kind of keeps the whole Chiquita area together, which is to me another pocket. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to keep the downtown areas together because there's so much density and it has to be chunked up somehow, some way. So this is one of the reasons I don't like this map at all. And I personally lean toward the teal map. So just another perspective.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. That's why I wanted to discuss them.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on green?
Like I said, I
I'm
personally.
no big fan of green, so I'm happy to.
No, I'm not happy.
Judy doesn't like green either.
No,
Mike, you have anything to add?
I will also add that historically, gosh, as far back as I can remember, I don't know anyone who's been on the school board who hasn't lived in the school district. I mean, in the city limits. Do you? From when you were?
That hasn't lived in the
Like every board member I can think of going back to when I was long before I was on the board even, have all lived in the city limits.
That's not very.
No, it's not. But I mean, it's more than just the 14 years I've been, whatever. It's like probably a good 20, 25 years ago.
I think that
I'm old.
I think that when it was the elementary and the secondary district were separate,
Mm-hmm.
The districts.
there were separate districts
Oh, I see.
before the unification of the school district. We did have
On the
in the
secondary.
high school district, we did have representatives on the board who lived out in the country.
Yeah, I mean, Alexander Valley and West Side both have 5-member boards. I don't know if they have elections, but they have people serving. Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as the high school district was concerned, which is your junior high and your high school here, you definitely had representatives. And when we took the Windsor students, it was even bigger. So
we want to move on from Green?
yeah.
Well, I just want to add that I did take into consideration and ask for some information about how many students are coming from West Side and Alexander Valley, for secondary. And it's not a lot of students. And, those schools are comprised, in large part with students who live in the city of Healdsburg and commute out to those schools. So while I want to say publicly that I would love for anyone from the West Side District or the Alexander Valley District to run for and be on this board, I don't think that we need to over-represent the number of, my personal concern is for the students and families and staff that are attending our schools, having representation. And that number is different than all of the numbers that we're looking at, which we know through experience. And so when we think about who should be represented from a person that lives right in their neighborhood, and theoretically is more accessible to them and all those things, we're just not looking at huge numbers of people that live outside of the city. So that's not, I want everyone's voice to be heard, but really we're talking about proportionally, people in town. And that's part of why the teal map does not make as much sense to me, because to me, it sort of graphically divides everything up, but doesn't necessarily divide up, we only have one in-town district there. Mm-hmm. And the vast number of students within our schools are in-town people. So, whether that gives people who live in this sort of like geographically farther out areas more of an opportunity to participate in their northeast quadrant, I just feel like sure we can talk about that, but it just seems to me that having at least 2 mostly in-town districts is actually much more representative of the students and families and that are in the schools. So I kind of jumped to the, but I'm not a fan of the green map, and that's all. Sorry.
So go ahead, Mike.
Wait, green or teal?
So I'm not a fan of the teal map either, but I think I started my long tirade in green map.
But we're talking about the green map, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But
And
Jerry said teal,
I would
so
agree.
I'll take that.
I just see and again, it's hard to say, but this massive area incorporating the 2 elementary districts, I don't. It just doesn't feel good to me. I don't know if that makes sense, but it'd be like, how do you represent all of that? I guess it's just a different viewpoint, but that would not be my first choice, I guess is where I'm going with this. I mean, I can tell you what my first choice is, but we'll get there.
Just anybody, I guess my point about people, about how not all, but maybe the majority of board members over the years are people that live in town, is that I am concerned that we're going to get people running in districts that are all entirely rural, outside of city limit districts. And whether it's green.
On any of them.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't think that should be dictating our choice about the map. I think we should really just be focusing on representing, the people that we're here to represent as a board. So, whether we're giving an advantage or a disadvantage to rural or in-town people in our map drawing just doesn't
It's
seem like it should.
No, I actually feel it's the opposite, that it's a more even distribution of people in town and rural, right? Versus 3 in-town districts and 2 rural, just as an example, or 1, I'm sorry to use the outside, 4 in town and 1 outside. It seems like more of a disadvantage, really, but I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here.
Can we do like a straw vote where we can rule out the green map?
That's why I want to understand people's logic behind, right? Like, I agree, we all want the right representation. I feel like all 5 of these could provide representation. There's nothing in here that is limiting representation. So I want to understand more about the logic behind that, about what you're saying.
Superintendent Venning, how many of the Healdsburg students go out to Alexander Valley? How many go out to Westside Rock?
I don't have exact numbers. I can give you guesses.
Yeah.
I do know, I want to say it's about, Alexander Valley has about 30 resident students and Westside has like 45. Westside is bigger. I think they have like 140 students. Alexander Valley has like 100. Not all of them come from us, right? Cloverdale, Windsor feeds.
All right.
So if I was guessing, if I was guessing Alexander Valley, if they're at 100, there's some 70 odd non-resident students. I would guess 55 of them are probably ours. And then probably a similar number out at Westside, so maybe 100 kids between the two.
It is true that Westside is not a basic A district, isn't that true?
It is in flux. So every year they bounce in and out depending on how many, and they're actually starting to limit their enrollment so they can stay in basic aid.
Because they weren't.
Yeah. It's been the last 3 years that they've kind of gone out, in and out. So, yeah.
Well, I've been away from it.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about schools that exist for 30 and 40 kids, right? Yeah. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yes.
It is. Let's not.
Well, so didn't we just kind of eliminate the green map?
Well, I don't know, but we can move on to orange.
Lupe, did you
have anything on green, Lupe?
I mean,
no.
I said that was my top 2 were orange and yellow.
Well, let's go orange, and you can start. You can say why you like orange, and then we'll go down the other way. Yeah.
Okay.
No, you start. No, I'm kidding. All right, well, the orange map really appealed to me too because not only does I like that it's split up both 2 and 1 into 2 different, but also when you look at the in-city limits, I feel like there's pockets in there that would have representation. So you can't zoom in, but if you look at the map in front of you, for Zone 5, we have that pocket where Foss Creek Circle is, and that is I consider that a big pocket of where we have a lot of our Latino families. And then we move up to, and that's one zone. In Area 3, we have Grove Street and Gulf Court, where all those apartments are in. And then we have Parkland Farms separated, but we also need to take into consideration, and that's something that I forgot to do up until this morning, that they're building new housing by Montage and those apartments over there. And then...
That's true.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that I failed to take into consideration. But then we have Trustee Area 4, and that also has like other pockets in there. So and then looking at the data itself, I think that this is the map that I would like to go with, but that is just my own personal opinion.
And it was 28 and 27% Latino in Area 3 and 5.
Mm-hmm. So,
anyone else want to talk about orange?
I really like orange. I like it for many of the reasons that Lupe mentioned. I like that there's one district that kind of encompasses. I like that there's sort of encroachments into City of Healdsburg, and there's also opportunities outside on both the east and west side, which kind of makes sense to me based on kind of the elementary districts as well. And to me, these seem like really sensible kind of distributions of the various neighborhoods. And this is the map I like the best for that reason.
It was my second choice, orange.
Does anybody have
I could
any,
live with it.
any opposing feelings about the orange map?
I'm not opposed. It's the antithesis of what I just described. But I also fully understand the logic behind what you all are saying. I mean,
It does.
it's the cleanest looking map.
It does
right?
bring in
Would you
some of
agree?
it does bring in.
Yeah, but
Some
just little
attachments.
wisps. It's wisps. It's not.
So Donna, do you think, can you re-articulate kind of what your chief concern is? Like if you were picking the map, which map would you pick and why?
I
Which
would
is-
pick teal, which is, I know, many of your least favorite, because I think it has this unification ability with people outside the city limits and people inside the city limits in a way that, to me, seems like a really fair distribution of whatever we're distributing, right? Of the districts. And I do have this real concern that we're just not going to get people running from these outer things and outer areas, and then we're appointing. And to me, that's like really, anyway, whatever. We don't know until we know. We don't know.
And that could happen anyway.
I will
Yeah.
also say that, like, we were noticing Enzo's not on here because this is from 2020 census. So things that are going to be happening, we'll pick up, the board, whoever's in place, with the next census, and we'll revise the map. So we really are looking at a snapshot that's 2020 with all this,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of things that aren't in here. I'm not even sure the new housing behind McDonald's is in here.
Probably not. No.
So, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a snapshot.
But did you
that's
look
just-
at what they said, which was the yellow map was the teal map? It's a variation
We can
of the
always do
teal
this.
map.
Yeah.
Did you
don't
catch
like
that?
I don't know that I like the yellow map, but let's get to it. Because now I'm like, of course my brain is whatever. I would not fight you on the, whatever it is, orange
orange.
map.
Orange.
I mean, if everybody really loves the orange map and you guys are all top 1 or 2, I'm not going to die on this hill, because who knows, right? This is a little bit of a roll of the dice.
Any other feelings on orange?
Well,
Well, I just second what has been said. I like the fact that it actually, I'm not sure how to say it, but I'm looking at, I guess, Park and Farms, et cetera, in that area kind of pulls in that part of the county, we'll say, that's right, I guess it is county, and the same on the other side. I'm not thrilled with section 1, area 1, just because it's, it's so large and does not seem to have pulled too much. Actually, it does. So, I mean, but orange is my first choice, orange, and I won't say the other one yet because we haven't gotten there, but it's one of the top 2.
Okay. Purple.
Ugh.
Anybody like purple?
No.
All right, let's move on. I was going to say there's no right or wrong answer in this except for purple is the wrong answer, but I want to make sure I wasn't offending anybody. Yeah.
It's too messy.
There's teal.
all right, purple.
Teal. Donnie, you've kind of already talked
Yeah, I did.
on your teal. Anybody else want to?
But just one sentence, why is purple so bad? I mean, I'm not.
Like I said before, because it really only gives us one high Latino concentrated voting block.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think it defeats the whole purpose of why we did this.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Why are we here?
Although, to Judy's point, there is one block that's more heavily Latino. Almost, I mean, it's split 50-50, but if they're not voters, I don't know how much that matters. Yeah.
I mean, I get what Donna's saying about bringing in like the city
Yeah.
limits up until like our
There's definitely logic in
books.
it.
Yeah. So I
Which is why I
I
like
see that,
yellow.
but
Because
I don't know.
Tell you what, let's pop to yellow
Yellow.
it brings
and have a
in-
talk about that, and then let's see how.
And then we're done. Yeah.
I like that.
So where are we at with yellow?
Yellow's the same as teal, though. Didn't he say that? Didn't the presenter say that it's like the same thing, but just like on
It's
a
a
different?
variation of
A very
teal.
yeah. There you go.
But
Thanks,
it
Judy.
has-
That's the word I'm looking
It
for.
does have 2 areas that have that Latino corridor in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed really logical.
Yeah.
And
My hang up with yellow was the Parkland Farms cut in half.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But what it does bring into Area 3 is the part of Parkland Farms that has that Latino population in it.
And I guess Yellow would also now, I mean, we're
Yeah,
not,
just
this is
barely.
2020, but Yellow would also now incorporate Area 1 with the new housing that's going to be built up by Montage.
Yeah.
But again, the map was going to be redrawn. That new
Yeah.
We'll have to
data
examine it all
will
again.
be.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
right?
yeah. so-
It'll. I think it's going to look really different in 2030. The whole. Right?
Well, depending
There's a
on when
lot of
stuff
time.
actually gets
Well,
built
That is true too.
Yeah.
Well,
and occupied.
if anything gets built.
There's this thing called tariffs.
I really don't want to I feel like when we look in town, we have all the neighborhoods are carved up.
They
so
are. It is hard.
so I definitely understand kind of what Julian was saying about Parkland Farms, and I have a gut feeling that it all should be one. But also if you look at where I live,
Your
I
street's
mean,
in half.
do
Yeah.
Mike and I live in the same neighborhood? Sort of, but do I also live in the same neighborhood as the people who live across the street from me who are not in any of these maps? So it's just sort of I feel like when I think about it based on the directive of our decision making, the thing I care about is the March Ave corridor and, and the representation there, because that to me is that March Ave corridor is lots of families, and my kids go to school with those kids so and there's and that's sort of the neighborhood around Ace Hardware is where I think of as kind of my neighborhood where there are families and there's a lot of young, even toddlers and really young kids who are going to be coming up through the school. So that makes sense to me, but it also doesn't really make sense that FMC is a different thing from me when I live 2 blocks from there. So just using myself as an example, I don't theoretically, we shouldn't carve up Parkland Farms, but also it's all kind of carved up. And so if we're looking for, areas, I think Lupe's done a great job of kind of pointing out some of the areas that we want to just be sure are not carved up, then, so yeah.
Thanks for, yeah. No, yeah. And this one, like I said, I liked it. I liked it, but yeah, Orange did it for me. I think also because, like I said, I've always kind of considered Sunnyvale Drive and Twin Oaks and March Avenue into one pocket, and this one splits up Twin Oaks and Sunnyvale Drive into 2 different districts.
If we had to oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I mean I'm which I guess could be quote unquote there's a pro to that because then you have other people running, but I don't know. Go on, Rose.
Oh, I was just going to say that I can live with the yellow map, just if we're working towards making a decision here.
I feel like the yellow map is destroys the teal map.
You do? Don't you feel like it holds in a lot of the same ideas of the teal map?
It does.
I just don't like this big, huge pink.
No, yeah.
Yeah, the big, huge pink's weird. And then
Big,
it's
huge
also
pink.
the idea that you have both West Side and AVS in the same district is a little weird
Partially.
too.
Somewhat, not really.
I don't
Some
Well,
of it is.
ish, right?
I mean, a
You
lot
don't?
of it is.
Okay.
No,
It's yeah,
Yeah, a lot of it is.
a lot of it is.
because it's still.
Yeah, that's. I'm just as soon as I see a big, huge.
Reminder, right now, all 5 of us represent all of these places.
Yes.
So,
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
That's why I like when you're well, I think about where I live. I'm trying to not think about where I live and how it looks from that vantage point.
well,
Because we can't. You'll go into crazy looking at every block.
Well, if,
right, but
if I look at where I live, my whole neighborhood is destroyed in every one of these.
Yeah.
well, and
You're not supposed to look at where you live.
I only raise my own neighborhood to be an example of, the thing I know the best when I look at this map is my own experience, right? And I'm just using it as an example to say, let's not make our decision based on where I live, but let's think about the fact that when you think about yourself at my little house, that we got 3 districts all around there. So I don't know.
Well, yeah. And so when I looked at it, I took out where I lived because it was split. My neighborhood's just split.
Right.
Doesn't matter
In all of the maps.
in all the maps.
Right.
So do we have,
that-
like, are we leaning? Hard for me to
Still
tell.
sounds like we're leaning orange. No?
I can live with orange.
Mike, you
Did I
haven't said
sway
anything.
everybody? Ha 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 ha.
Really. I'm
Me?
calling you out. Yeah.
No.
I would like to hear from you,
Well,
Vice President.
I mean, my preference is orange. I like yellow. Again, I'm looking at the balance, again, of our Latino voters and population. For me, the orange, I guess it's area 3, kind of reaches up a bit into a more of a mixed area, I guess. And so I would think that maybe 3 and 5, I hadn't seen, let me look real quick. And they are.
Yep, 3 and 5.
And orange are the heaviest in our Latino population. But again, you know, I want the representation there. I'm not relying on looking at the percentage of Latino voters or percentage of voters, you know, it's not going to get in because of the Latino vote, but I think if there's a Latino population there, to have one person or 2 people as an orange, in my opinion, a little more, I don't know, familiarity is the right word, and that's not a fair word, but I would pick orange of the 2.
So I'm sorry, what was your last statement? Orange?
I would
Pick
pick
orange
orange.
out over yellow.
Over yellow.
Yeah. So Rose was pro-orange. Mike was pro-orange. Judy can live with orange.
I'm pro orange.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
We're back. Where we
So now we have another
Wow.
dilemma.
What?
If we're going orange, which someone's going to
yeah.
eventually have to make a motion, we have to choose which areas have the election. And we should use Latino vote as maybe our criteria in deciding. And I don't know if we could get some guidance on why these 2 areas. Like, could we just say we want the areas to be 3 and 5, or is it because of current trustees, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's partial consideration of current trustees. Justin, you can also you can jump in here.
Yeah, I was just going to agree. The rule is that if there is only one trustee or multiple trustees that are on the same election year at the time, that area should be placed on that trustee or those trustees' normal cycle.
Gotcha.
My guess is that either we have a conflict in 1 or 2, or 1 or more of those areas are vacant, in which case we'd ask for a decision. But those are both rural or not the 2 most heavily Latino areas.
One of them is. So the suggestions that we have in front of us that you provided are areas 1 and 5, or areas 2 and 5 to be in 26. So 5 is going to happen if we go orange, right? And that's a heavy Latino area, 27%.
Mm-hmm.
3 is our other, it's not up. But if we're using that logic, I'd say we'd choose 1 because it's a higher Latino area than 2, because that's your other choice, right? 1 or 2. Does that make sense?
I lost it. Where's my?
If that's
Wait.
the logic we're to use.
Hold on.
And
Now I'm
Those are our
confused.
2 choices.
yeah, if those are our 2 choices.
It's either going to be this one and 5 or this one and 5.
Yeah.
Is there,
Could you put it on the one that zooms in a little bit, please?
So you said 1 and 5,
1 and 5 or 2 and 5.
or 2 and 5. Oh,
I'm out of curiosity, why those 2? As
That's what they were.
opposed to 5
That's what
and
they were
4.
just. That's what they were just talking to. It's about. There's a conflict
In 4.
in 4, and in 3 apparently. Yeah.
Donna and I live around the corner from each other.
Yeah. So we can't. We wouldn't hold an election
But we
where
have
you guys
4
live.
years.
Right.
So
Yeah.
4's out.
Right. That's why those 2 are out, is because the sitting trustees where you live. So it has to be 1 and 5 or 2 and 5. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I was suggesting, because by 3%, which is not within the realm of deviation, there's more Latino votes in area 1 that we go with 1 and or area 1 that we would go 1 and 5.
Yes, I think that's true. I agree with you.
Okay.
If we're doing orange.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds fine.
So we would need a motion and someone to read that motion there. And what's the reso number?
I'll do it.
25?
I'll do it.
Oh, perfect.
I move to adopt Resolution 2025. 2525 for approval with the orange map as the district's adopted trustee area scenario with trustee areas 1 and 5 scheduled for election in November 2026 and trustee area 2, 3, and 4 scheduled for election in November 2028.
And we would need a second.
Second.
Second, third.
See, I'm supporting Orange.
Team Orange.
Team Orange.
It's for the Giants. Here we go.
All right, President Lopez Jimenez,
Aye.
Vice President Potmissel,
Aye.
Trustee McAllister,
Aye.
Trustee Velasquez,
Aye.
Trustee Del Rey. Aye. Thank you.
All right.
Until I vote no.
All right. Is there anything to read here?
No, there is
I thought
not.
you had really good.
And-
Thank you very much to both of you. We really appreciate your help and guidance.
And that was a really great discussion. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right. So our next board meeting will be Wednesday, April 16th here at City Hall. Deadlines to submit agenda items will be Monday the 7th to complete agenda request forms. And then April 9th, all backup materials are due. And that will meeting adjourned.